I think that we have a certain amount of fear, or dare I say shame, of, oh my God, no one wants to talk to me because I don't have this really good salary. That's when you really need to look into yourself as a recruiter and say, why did I come work for this company? Is it the team that I'm working with? Is it the mission? Is it the flexibility? We really need to look at what makes it so special to work here. It's not the dollars and cents. Welcome back to another episode of Cleared Recruiting Challenges. I'm Kathleen Smith with ClearedJobs.Net, and behind the scenes of Security Cleared Jobs, who's hiring and how, we always ask a question. What is your most difficult recruiting challenge? And what are the tools or skills that you use to overcome it? It's been the dynamic duo. It's been competitive salaries and hybrid remote work locations. We already did how to get people on site, and today we're doing the salaries.
Absolutely. And I could not be more excited to talk about salaries because it is the thing that everyone lives in fear of, everyone has an opinion on, but there's ways to be wildly successful here. So I am here about making sure that my brethren in arms are ready to talk about salaries and get great talent in.
The sisterhood of competitive salaries. So let's start separating myth from reality, because this is one thing that just irks me to no end, that when I see, social media posts out there that say, oh, all you need to do is get one or two, certificates out there and you too can make $225,000 in the government contracting community. Sorry, not the case. Reality is very different, and the pay information is very public. And since I'm here in Virginia, there's an old retail store here that was right around the corner from my house called Sims. And they had this great slogan, which was, an educated consumer is our best customer. And I really think that this pertains to job seekers, because the more that you can educate them about what's going on in the industry, in the community, we can separate some of these urban myths from reality and make sure our job seekers are better educated.
Yes, another part of a recruiter's job is to be that myth buster, but really it's about making sure that you're setting those, yes, I'm going to say it, clear expectations. So when talking to that candidate, maybe they're sitting there going, I just don't think that salary is going to be enough. But what they don't understand is that total target compensation. So maybe there's some benefits, the time off, some of the other concessions and goodness that exists within that company that really contributes to that total target comp. So make sure you start there. The base salary is great. Talk about bonuses, talk about time off, talk about healthcare, talk about all of those things that make it a really rich offer. And as Kathleen so eloquently put it, that candidate, they might be expecting that huge salary because they read it on the internet, so it must be true. But it's about really setting that expectation for them that, hey, not only can I not offer you $1 million for this role, but none of my other friends in the industry are also going to be able to offer you $1 million. It's about really making sure they understand what that role is worth and what they could expect to be paid at any organization, but then bringing them back to that total target comp of why your offer is so great.
We're going to say it time and time again because it is so important, but setting the expectations, knowing that you're going to have that candidate relationship, and setting expectations is a really great way to build a wonderful foundation for the good candidate experience. I remember when we were talking with Tony Gilbert of RTX, he said, people in the defense industry tend to go around and around from one defense contractor to the other and just seem to expect extremely high salaries. And really, we all know there's not a lot of wiggle room in these labor categories on a contract. I mean, this is where the recruiter interfacing with the business development team is so important. You have to let your business development team know, hey, don't put in there these categories for this salary. We're not going to be able to get anyone. Another great comment we had was from Kitty Mays of Geologics, which he said, the challenge is finding the right person at the right time with the right salary range, because I can always find somebody, I just can't always afford them.
Absolutely. And sometimes it just doesn't line up. It's not a great match for the candidate and yourself. That's okay, friends. There is going to be somebody out there. And I really appreciate the survey that y'all did over there at ClearedJobs.Net that really surveyed those clear job seekers and asked, what influences their decision when they've got a couple offers on the table. And the top influencer at 47% was the salary and benefits. So that was an important thing, was understanding not just the salary, but hopefully you heard, because you're listening, the recruiting friends out there. It's also those benefits plays a big part into their consideration. And the second influence in there at 29% was remote work and location. Funny, those also seem to be the two biggest challenges that we have across the community. So let's talk about solutions. And speaking of multiple offers, I know y'all probably remember our friend Mike Barnum at RTX. He is so good about coming up with solutions, and even probably better, and has some great reasoning on setting those expectations up front. At the time, he told us that he was under the impression that every candidate he extended an offer to probably has 2 or 3 that they're considering because they're good fits and they're highly desired talent. What did he have to offer that would make it a little bit better? Was it better benefits or remote working opportunities? And that's why Mike said it's so important to get to that issue up front. So understand the things that are influencing their decisions when thinking about an offer, and that's going to help you put together that most competitive, compelling offer for that candidate.
Being upfront, it's something that we have dreaded for a very long time in our industry, and it's something that we know if we had done it earlier and we had done it up front, we would have weeded out a lot of the poor matches. I was really impressed when I saw the 2023 Global Talent Acquisition Trends Study that looked at the top priorities for candidates, and we'll be bringing them up over and over in the conversation today. But the top priority was knowing the salary for the position that they're applying for. The candidate wants to know, is it worth their time? And furthermore, Lighthouse Research and Advisory Study, our friends down there in Alabama, you might want to say hi to them, Rachel.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. Candidates are 5 times more likely to click on a job posting that features a clear pay range. So again, the candidates are asking for this. And according to PayScale's 2024 Compensation Best Practices Report, 60% of the employers they surveyed now put the pay ranges in the job posting. That's a significant jump up from 45% in 2023. This is also probably due to legislation requiring pay transparency in various states. But hey, guys, you might as well start getting it out there before you're legally required to do it. So, posting salary ranges in your job postings is a growing trend that people are adopting. And I think what's great about this is it signals fairness and honesty to the candidates. They're more likely to apply, which is something that we all talk about, not getting, people not applying to our jobs.
Mhm.
But it's also going to get more complicated down the road when we're all required to do it.
Just get out in front of it. Be a trendsetter. It's coming. So you might as well embrace it and figure out how to harness it. So, but I do want to go back to the survey that you mentioned, Kathleen, that 2023 Global Talent Acquisition Trend Study, knowing the salary for the position they're applying for. The second candidate priority when they were looking at it was a recruiter that makes them feel appreciated. And I think that's huge. Like, especially that's something we strive for as recruiting professionals, is to make sure that we're setting this awesome candidate experience. And what better way to make them feel appreciated than be upfront? Don't sugarcoat, don't surprise them at the end, but be upfront about the salary is one way that you can make them feel appreciated. Having that just very human to human conversation, it's great for the candidate experience, and it makes them feel seen, heard, and dare I say, appreciated. And aside from setting that salary expectation on both sides, you can uncover even more about that candidate's specific needs and hot buttons better. This builds the relationship and allows you to tailor that approach for that specific individual. Especially important if you're trying to win them over, kind of going back to the example with Mike. It does remind me of something else that he shared. When he calls his candidate and has a conversation, he said if they're building a good rapport, he might even get a referral from that person in the future. So it is important. Not only do you make them feel appreciated, but it's helping you out too, my friends. You might get some referrals out of this conversation. Sometimes it's not the right time for that particular person or the right role. But Mike had people that have reached out even 2 years later and say, hey, I remember that conversation we had, and I'd like to talk about this other career opportunity. Build those relationships that matter.
And I'm glad you mentioned referrals because In all the time that I've been in this industry, it's sort of gone through in waves if people are really big on referrals or not. And I remember, 15, 20 years ago, there were a lot of new technologies that were out doing, here, let me help your referral program. But referrals are all about building a relationship with the candidates and building the relationships with your existing employees so that they can tell other people to come work for you. Yeah, we might not have the top salary in the industry, but we love working here. Having that employee personally vouch for your workplace, that it compensates for the time that they're there, that they feel confident, that they fulfilled, they know that they're getting the work done and they enjoy working together. I mean, it's great to make a living. It's great to pay those bills and take a vacation or two. But at the same time, understanding that you love where you work, that you're fulfilled where you work, that referral can really sell that possibility. And speaking of fulfilled, I think that we miss out on this, that there are a lot of people who work in this community because they support the mission. And I think sometimes we forget to talk about that when we're recruiting and we're talking about a competitive salary between what we're doing here and what we're doing in the commercial world. Because, yes, it's exciting. There's an IPO. We can do all this really great stuff in the commercial world. In the government contracting world, we're solving problems. We're making sure that there's electricity to rural America. We are defending our borders. There are a lot of times that people sort of forget that message, which is core. And when we looked at our surveying of our job seekers and we asked them if they would consider a position that didn't require their clearance, unfortunately, the statistics are not as great as I would like to see them. I mean, 49% said yes, that they were open to all opportunities, cleared or not. Another 30% said yes, they would be interested in a non cleared position. But the caveat on that was that they wanted to go for a remote position. And I can tell you, given what we've seen in some recent surveys, those remote positions in the commercial world are drying up really quickly. So the challenge is real. We're not competing only with each other, but we're also competing with the commercial space. So understanding how you support the mission is another way that you can make up the difference in the competitive salary.
Absolutely. And it is. There's competition everywhere, but it should inspire you versus making you feel defeated in that space. And it makes me think about Mike Giovanetti at Axiologic Solutions. And he was hopeful about it, which I like. I like a glass half full. I know you do too, Kathleen. Mainly water. But hey, that glass half full of water is good for that daily intake. But something that he said was people are leaving for more money and remote opportunities. We know that. We see that. We have to own it. But what he said was, I don't like to think it's as big of a discrepancy as people think it is. And again, that's that glass half full. He said, if you work at a place with people you like, doing things you love, you're going to stay for a really long time, even if the thing doesn't pay at the top end. And I think it is such a good reminder. Sometimes people love to be around the culture that's the right fit for them, people that make them feel appreciated. It's about creating a culture where people are going to be drawn to him and his organization. But somebody else, we have a lot of friends that like our glasses half full. And one of those is Stephanie Lovett of Leidos, who said, with Amazon coming into the area and people being able to get those high dollar salaries, it really challenged some of the big government contractors. But we can overcome those things too. Stephanie said, you have to look at the overall package. It's not just being about the salary, it's the fit, it's the people, it's the culture. It's about being excited to make a difference defending our security and our borders.
Yeah, I love Stephanie Lovett of Leidos. She's just always been a half full kind of lady and always love seeing her at our job fairs. Salary is just one piece of it. There was a 2022 aerospace and defense workforce study that I really think was relevant because it talks about attracting and retaining talent within our community. And in the study, Steve Fuller, one of the authors, quoted saying, what really matters to employees is really what their situation is like at work. What kind of experience are they getting? And do they have opportunities for career development? He went on to say, why should someone want to work at your organization, whether they're a candidate or an employee? A lot of organizations actually have very beneficial things, but the company and their representatives don't articulate it well. Mr. Fuller went on to say one action companies can take is to better articulate their unique value proposition to their current and potential employees. So when you're competing with other organizations that are not limited by the contract rates, you really need to get your candidates to buy into your big picture. That's going to help you recruit them, but more importantly, retain them. What is your value proposition? Can you sell the candidates on the fact that your employees are involved with really great growth? Are they involved in programs and projects that they otherwise wouldn't have an opportunity to do other places? You might be up against some really big, whopping salary differences, but this is one area where I had a personal experience. I was working for one very well known organization and I was burned out. And another organization said, "Hey, we'll take you. We've been wanting to have you come to our organization for a very long time, and we're actually going to give you a significant raise." But I went on the interview, and everyone I talked to hated working there. They hated the hours, the stress. The person that I was replacing said, "I'm burned out more than you're burned out." So yeah, great money is important, but you have to realize what price there is.
And it really is about selling that employee value proposition and what makes your company unique or special and why do people want to be there. And it really is, you have to figure out how to tailor that pitch. You can't just go on autopilot and say, insert EVP here. It really has to be tailored to that candidate. So to kind of go back to what we were mentioning earlier, it really is about extracting when you're setting those expectations. It's about listening and understanding what's important to that candidate. That human to human conversation is going to give you so much understanding of what motivates that candidate. When you ask a simple question about, well, tell me why you're leaving your current organization, or what are you looking for in your next position, you're going to understand their motivation. Just like Kathleen's example, she was burned out, and they could talk about their work life balance and their life work balance and the things that they offer to their employees to make it more enticing and really what would meet their needs. Or maybe you realize in talking to them through that human to human conversation, this really isn't going to be a good fit. They're looking for things that don't align with our company values, or this just isn't really going to be a good fit. Save time in the recruiting process. Be honest. Don't try to sugarcoat it or say, well, we can do all of these things if you know it's not going to be a good fit now or could lead to future attrition, because we don't like that either when people start leaving the organizations. Don't just get a butt in the seat. I think that makes me have like those feelings of just don't do it. Don't do it. It's not right for them. It's not right for you. And it's not right by your customer, by anyone. So don't get a butt in a seat. Get talent that's going to thrive and strive in your organization. You want that person to be the right fit for that role, and you want them to stay with your company. You want them to grow. So, thinking about, when we talk about candidate motivation, for many, it's career development. So, this came up in that 2023 Global Talent Acquisition Trend Study that we referenced earlier. The first candidate priority is knowing the salary for the position. As we mentioned, we talked about that one. The second priority was having a recruiter that makes them feel appreciated. Been there, put a check mark next to that. And the third one is really about a commitment to helping them advance their career. So lean into your educational benefits that you might have, or upskilling, or if you have a mentorship program, or the career pathing opportunities. Lean into those things. Those are important to folks. They want to know what's next. Nobody wants to join a career and die in that role forever. They want to know how they can continue to grow and learn. So maybe you have a broad number of contracts that allow your employees to remain with your company, but learn different things. It might be lateral, but it's career growth and it's development and it's an exciting thing. So think about those non-monetary benefits that you have that really might be the thing that closes the deal for that candidate.
And this is really your job as the recruiter to sell that, because I remember in my early career, all I looked at was the salary. And whoever was interviewing me didn't talk about the benefits in any way, shape, or form. And only when I left the organization did I realize I could have gotten my MBA paid for by the organization. So, bad on me for not doing the research, but bad on that recruiter for not doing it. So I'm going to hone in on this career development opportunities. This was even reported in a NextGov article by Carton Cardell, talked about how even in the intelligence community, we still have a challenge of retaining that talent because we're not talking about the career development. And so we're competing with the private sector on salaries, but we have, something hidden in our pocket, which is how do you create a very cool career within the government? How do you create skills within the government to support the mission? And I really think that this is a key that we're missing so many times.
Absolutely. And because it's so good, and I hope you will all humor me, I want to share one last guest comment. And it came from Megan Hayes at the Applied Research Laboratory at Penn State. And she said, even if you're not the highest salary competitive out there, if you look at total compensation, what you have to offer from vacation, tuition, discounts, quality of life, that life work balance, and things that come with it, you might be extremely competitive and didn't realize you were. We talked about it earlier about what motivates a candidate. Discovering what's most important to the candidate gets the focus off the salary. Maybe that's not your strongest card to play. So, really understanding their motivations really helps you craft that conversation. Megan shared some of the cards that she's playing out there are things like tuition discounts and vacation. What are the benefits that you can highlight when you think about your company? Do you have a great 401k match? Do you have a generous leave and flexible schedules? If a candidate is caring for their children or maybe elders, that might be extra attractive to them. And what kind of healthcare benefits do you have? If someone has a large family or existing medical conditions, this might be what seals the deal. So, to wrap it all up, I think it's all about setting those expectations, understanding the candidate's motivations, really just having those, not leading with, oh, I can't offer them that exact salary, really leaning into what makes your company special and being able to tailor that employee value proposition to each candidate that you're talking to. Kathleen, what do you think?
I think that we have a certain amount of fear, or dare I say shame, of we don't have a really good salary. And oh my God, no one wants to talk to me because I don't have this really good salary. That's when you really need to look into yourself as a recruiter and say, why did I come work for this company? Is it the team that I'm working with? Is it the mission? Is it the flexibility? I mean, I've talked to recruiters who have been with certain companies for as long as I've been in this community. And we really need to look at what makes it so special to work here. It's not the dollars and cents. It is the mission. It is the opportunities. It is the teamwork. It is the family. It is all the things that really makes it a wonderful place. I mean, we would not have the government contracting community if it was not a wonderful place to work.
So good.
So good.
Oh, that got me excited.
Woo-hoo! Anyway, thanks so much for joining us today. Love having all of the listeners. Love having all the people reading the newsletter. We really appreciate all the support that we're really hitting home and providing some aha moments for everyone out there. Thanks so much.